Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Calvin Hadley. I am transitioning currently to Senior Advisor to the President of Howard University, transitioning to the position of Assistant Provost at Howard University. Received a doctorate in Sociology from Howard University in May of 2023, Master's in Public Administration from NYU, and sometime in a Bachelor's from Howard in Political Science and Africana Studies, 2008. And currently on the beach, and I will allow my good friends to introduce themselves momentarily, but I'll give a brief intro and say that the Creator works in mysterious ways. And I was sharing a few seconds ago that in this brief 12-hour period, I've been to Trelawney. I've been in Trelawney probably for 23 hours. And I think in 12 of those hours, 13 of those hours, I met 4 or 5 African Americans that have been extremely progressive. And one of the things that has made me think is that for so many African Americans in the States, we've been taught to hate ourselves. And as a result of that, that self-hatred permeates the way we interact with each other. And I was just really blown away by the warm, beautiful reception that we provided each other and been able to build outside of the country. And one of the things it reminds me of is that sometimes you got to remove yourself physically, emotionally, and spiritually from an environment that teaches you to hate yourself. And so it's been a beautiful experience, and I look forward to hearing more from my new friends here.
Hi, my name is Brittany Benjamin. I'm a PhD candidate at Southern University, a PhD in urban forestry. I have a bachelor's and master's in urban forestry as well, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Shay, my name is Christian Todd Smith, a revolutionary leader, spiritual leader, man of God, studying for my PhD in urban forestry. I'm here with wonderful people, having a great experience, creating the reality I want. I'm saying blessings, peace, and prosperity and abundance to the world. Whoever's watching this, we love you. We can make it through. We can see it through. To each one, teach one.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, earlier we were talking, I guess I met your brother earlier, and we were working out, and, you know, again, kind of going back to the reception, I think it's universal for black men to get ahead now, but again, I mentioned that I'm in Maryland now, do a lot of work with young people in DC, and the state of the community is rough. I'm from LA, grew up in the 90s in LA, where gang culture kind of ran the way we interacted with each other. And so for me, I realized that when I got to Howard, that I had been taught to hate myself. And that permeated my interactions with other black men. So when I interacted with other black men in gang culture, the biggest thing you gotta make sure is that you're not an easy target. And so frequently, you're trying to show people that you're not an easy target in the way you interact. And so, you know, that hard exterior was the way I would interact with black men. And I didn't realize that until somebody pointed it out to me, but I had been incarcerated to hate myself. And that self-hatred that permeated my experience with other people. And I understand that, you know, recently somebody shot up a park in DC, and I always say you can never do that unless you hate yourself. And so for me, it's been such a beautiful experience coming out here meeting young black people in forestry, right? With degrees in forestry. And the other time I met a brother that lived five minutes from me. I'm in Maryland. Yesterday I was literally five steps from here and met a brother from the same city that lived 5 minutes from me. And then when I was sitting on the beach earlier meditating, I met another brother from California. I think you guys, you know, I didn't tell you, I'm from California. Okay. You never shared that. I'm originally from California. I met another brother from California. I'm from Inglewood originally and live in Carson now.
I've got a lot of people from the Inglewood and Carson area.
Okay. So it's just crazy how it works. I'm pleased. I'm extremely pleased.
You spoke on some important topics through your journey just now. How you worked out. You know, that was a real part of your day, and meditating. Yeah. So as a black man, can you speak on how those two aspects help you to create a better lifestyle for yourself and elevate yourself as a black man in this culture today?
So my focus on mental, physical, and spiritual health have saved my life. Full stop. So I've been meditating every day since May 20th, 2020. Every single day. I missed one day, ended up getting a car accident and getting some injuries. and fell out from that. But I missed very few days, and I meditate and I journal every day. And part of what that does for me is allow me what I haven't. Now that it's going public, I need to figure out what language I really want to use. But the language that I use is I want to be able to see myself beyond the story. Right. So many of us have a story everybody has a story that we tell ourselves, and that story permeates the manner in which we interact with each other and the way we see ourselves alive. And frequently, we can be in a space where we cannot actually see who we are. We can only see a reflection of that story that we tell ourselves. And so for me, the meditation, the journaling, the connection with the Creator is a constant, everyday journey of understanding who I am and understanding how I can use what the Creator has given me to reach the world around me. And so I think as you talk about the health journey, mental, spiritual, and physical, all of those are things that I practice every day. But I think without them, I think so much of the thing in America, my philosophy is that black people are born kings and queens, but we are acculturated to be niggas. We are infused with the concept of being a nigga from an early age. It's regurgitated in popular culture, it's regurgitated in our in the media that we receive, in the classroom. Frequently your teacher expects you to be a certain way. And I think for me, it has helped me see the king in myself, which has made it easier for me to see the king in others. And so now the dissertation, all the work that I've been able to do is all around helping others see that. My PhD is in sociology, where I had a focus on academic and professional success for black boys. And I discovered that belief is the key element. So there are two ends of belief that I study. One is the belief gap. So in K-12 education, there's something called a belief gap. The gap in between what administrators, teachers, counselors believe a student can achieve and what the student can actually achieve. And so for the black male, as you can imagine, that belief gap is the largest. Black males are suspended at the highest rate. They have the lowest prevalence in AP and IB courses. And get this, 59% of black males that enter high school graduate. 59% of the black males in the United States of America that enter in a high school graduate. And nobody's talking about it. It's not a global conversation. It's not a dinner room conversation. And so for me, I think the only way to really impact the community is by evoking that sense of mental, physical, and spiritual health. So for me, it's my life's work, and it's interesting that you tapped into it early, but what I would want the world to know about me is that focus on mental, spiritual, and physical health, and my two sons are over there, my two young kings are over there, 3 and 5 years old. What I'm constantly working with them on is an everyday journey of being the best version of yourself. The Creator is giving you everything you need, but frequently we are stuck in, again, behind that story. Right. And we never are able to really tap into our own.
Part of limiting your distractions and increasing your focus.
Yeah.
So you basically did a dissertation on your creed and how your beliefs and how things as far as like health and journaling and prayer and meditation can help you succeed in any way that you want to.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to let the limits that American places on ourselves deter you from greatness. You know, you can accomplish anything that you want to in this world. And it all starts with the right mindset, you know, the right frame of thought, the right attitude, and that goes into eating right, that goes into reading. You know, things you got to make sure you're putting the right thing in your body as far as like spiritually, mentally. All those play a part. All those play, the music, all that plays a part in creating an environment to hate yourself. So if they repeating words over like die, nigga, kill like that, you're gonna think that's normal. You know, you're gonna create an environment of yourself that's toxic. You know, so.
And that's what you're gonna see when you look across. The only way you can shoot up a park where you live down the street and your family could literally be there is if you've internalized nigga and you see niggas. You can't see God. There's no way you can go to shoot up a park where you see God. And that has been the greatest thing that has been done to the African American that I don't always see when I come to Jamaica. So I'm Pan-African. You see the tattoo. This is a visual image of Bob Marley's Redemption song. Right? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And so it's Africa with a chain wrapped around it, and the chain is wrapped around and it's squeezing it. And it's a sun at the bottom, and the sun is giving the rays of light, and the chain is only broken where the rays of light hit it. And the rays of light represent knowledge of self. And the chains are open because there's no physical bondage. but the chain is choking us to death because of the mental bondage. And it looks like this because I got it in Africa. So they don't look as good as yours, but I get the story behind it, right? Is that I got it in Africa. But for me, that is the journey, right? Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And that's what, to be clear, as I meditated today, I reflected on two great Jamaicans that have played a major role in my life, that created this tattoo. This tattoo is after two great Jamaicans, not just Bob Marley, but the first was Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Marcus Mosiah Garvey in 1935 gave a speech at the UNIA where part of what he talked about was emancipate yourself from mental slavery. And so when Bob Marley sang that song years and decades later, he was reflecting on Marcus Garvey's philosophy. And that philosophy is a philosophy that I live by, that's permeated my life, that's permeated the world that I tried to build for my children and the world around me. And so when I pursued this doctorate and this degree, it was really for knowledge itself. Right? A lot of people get degrees because of their direct utility, how I can use it in the market. And for me, I didn't think that I could be the best human being. I didn't think I could be the best father or the best Calvin without this real knowledge itself. And so the degree was really in this very, right, as I was doing it at the beginning, but I imagined myself as the Greeks that used to sit back in the chairs and get fed grapes while they learned. Because it was like, this is the privilege of just being able to pursue education or knowledge for knowledge's sake and not to be utilized in a specific way. But as you know, the PhD process can get difficult. And so while I had that drive on the front end of it, where it was purely knowledge itself, when you now are at the exam phase, you're now at the dissertation phase, and everything started falling apart, and all of the things that you had that were supporting you started to fall apart, I reached this point where it was a very dark space. And that thing that propelled me at the beginning, that said, if this is only for knowledge itself, well, you can have that knowledge. You've been on this journey now, you finished your classes. Do you need to continue this in order to pursue that knowledge itself? And what I realized at that moment was that the process, as we've talked about, the process of going through, working through the dissertation, literally defending the dissertation, is all value, has a great deal of value in that process. And so I decided that it was worthwhile, although I don't believe I became the senior advisor to the president at 28, right? The creator provided me all of these experiences and opportunities, but didn't require a PhD for the next level. But it was the process that you and I talked about. And I think I would love to hear for you guys to tell the world about your process and how you guys have been able to do that together. Because for me, the loneliness and the darkness of that process almost knocked me off of my path. And it wasn't until I identified the real utility of it, beyond the degree itself, beyond what the degree would do for me professionally, as I could identify the utility of the process. And you know, I don't want to say you pledged, I don't know if they pledged or something, but you joined the organization, right, that has a process of joining that organization. And so sometimes the process is just as important as the outcome. Right. And I don't know if you guys, I think your process has been a very unique one, right? I've never heard of anybody go through a process like you guys. This is very cute, by the way.
I don't know, you touched on so much. Like, it's been amazing, and it definitely lightens the load a lot to have someone that you can go through this with. Like, I think, you know, there's pressures in life, there's gonna be pressures in your relationship, and then when you're working towards something like this through school, it brings in a whole new set of pressures. But we've learned how to like communicate and talk to each other through situations and with situations, and having someone like when you just burnt out from the process to start sending the emails on behalf of the group, and going up to school, getting the signatures, getting both pages of signatures, or somebody else on the back end working on something else. Like, it's been really, it's been interesting, and we've definitely honed in on our process, getting our masters together and now getting this PhD together.
I think you got to tell that story. So you got, I know the story, but they don't know the story about.
So we basically got our bachelor's and master's in urban forestry together. Now we pursuing our PhDs together, so that whole process, I don't know, we came up with a formula, you know, just to make school easier. It doesn't have to be as hard from our perspective as it may seem, especially if you have a team to work with, if you're communicating, you're honing a great relationship with your faculty advisor, so you want to be methodical with your movements, you want to be intentional of how you're talking, the letters you're putting out. Like we spoke on earlier, diet goes into it, eating right, consuming the right things. I'm not watching a lot of TV. I'm reading often, so I'm training my body each and every way to get 100, not 100, but 1% better each day. You want to put achievable goals in front of your daily tasks each day. So whether I'm making my bed each morning, I'm making sure the house is spotless when I leave. That way I can put my energy more towards things like focusing or coming up with a game plan, or how we're going to work on our PowerPoints. Like right now we're by the beach. You might can't see it right now, but after this we're going in, you know, we're going to work on our PowerPoints. We're going to study, you know, we're going to do some reading. I'm going to sit in quiet a little bit and let my thoughts clear out and let me focus on what I have to going on. So even though we might be on vacation, you still want to work and find time to work on yourself. So if you out there vacationing as a team, we're gonna read. You know, we still gonna read. It's a business, you know. So we still want to keep that business aspect, you know, of how we running our life.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that, because as it's 2:39, I have a meeting at 3:30, and so I'm gonna have to cut it short in a few minutes. But the reality is that, so I created something called, a program was created at Yale called the Summer Institute for Computational Social Sciences. We brought the first black version of that to Howard, where we focus on AI, bias in AI, right? AI is getting ready to take over the world. Well, what does it look like to have the same biases that exist today? And so we're holding this big conference on it, and I need to go in there. I'm on vacation, right? And this is still a vacation day that I'm not getting paid for, right? But the reality is that, to your point, you never stop sharpening your tools.
You're getting paid for it, just in a different, just in different currency.
Absolutely.
You know, so our energy is worth millions. So whatever, it might not be a monetary, you know, thing that you're checking, but you exchanging some form of high value, you know, information that's going to pay you back dividends. You know, maybe not to you, but to your kids. You're always planting those seeds, you know, to harvest the fruit later on. So anything that we're doing or how we moving, it's $1 billion idea, and we want to make sure that we plant it in the right soil, that we're watering it, that we make sure we're giving it the right sun. So, you know, I speak in those terms because we deal with agriculture and stuff. So that's kind of how we look at it.
It translates well. It translates well. And one of the things you guys mentioned, and I met your brother earlier, who was also here with you guys. You know, he was talking, he's like, are y'all buying property out here? You looking at property? And I was like, bro, you 26, what you talking about? What you talking about buying property? But the reality is, you guys already have a consulting firm. You guys are already thinking about how to monetize this. And what I realized, I met all those African Americans I met. One of the brothers is retired, and it looked like his early 50s. My Uncle Mark, my wife's uncle, is retiring in 2 years. And he's in his early 50s, and his wife is going to retire in a few years. And I don't come from money. I don't know anybody that retired early. Right? I don't know anybody that decided to retire. Like we all get to your 70s or whatever age and you retire. But I think what you guys have been able to tap in, I think your dad is here, and you got family, your whole family. And I think this concept of group economics, and even just as you talked about business, I think that's something that is key, because the reality is, and I realize this in working today, is that I'm not going to work after my son gets out of high school. And I never could have said that. I couldn't have said that to you if we had an interview yesterday. And what I realize now is, first of all, you can't touch what you can't see. So I didn't know this was a reality. I'm senior, you know, I'm a big man. I got dinners with dignitaries every week, all these big things. But still, that's not my reality, is retiring and not working. I saw my daddy working to his 70s. I saw my mom working, you know, into his 60s. My mom working to her 60s, and hard work, right? And so for me, this is the first time where I'm pausing and saying, wow, it really is important to start to build out. I told you, when I pursued the PhD, again, this is a very esoteric idea, right? It wasn't to monetize it or to think about the next position. But now the reality is, I realize is that building out your space also has to permeate those spaces if you want freedom. If you want the freedom to come with your family. I was like, man, you 26, you got your, you in 2 houses. Like, if you want this ability, you've got to build capital. You've got to be able to create a space for yourself. And I think what you guys have been able to do at a relatively young age, I know your dad is here, it sounds like that may be instilled from your older generation. I think you said your grandfather went to college or something like that. Which is crazy, you know. My dad dropped out of school in 9th grade, but I bring that up because I think one of the things that you guys have been able to do is, another key to this is also, and I don't want to say monetize it, that's not the right language, but I think really think about, my family here, really think about, you know, the world into how you can contribute, and also how you can build in a space beyond the moment. And I think that's new to me. When I was talking to your 26-year-old brother talking about property, I was like, yeah, we are thinking about property, but in my mind, I was thinking about 10 years. And he was like, now we thinking now. I was like, well, I need to be thinking now too. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, and these are my. We ordered. It's coming now.
Which one on that side?
Yeah, but it's not. We ordered here and they go pick it up over there. You want to say hi?
Up on Kings.
So those are my boys, and the reality is just, you know, it's interesting that that happened because they are. I feel like I was born to be a father. Like everything else in my world is really swell. I get a chance to do some really real things. As I say that, I'm listening to saying this out loud because when I say that to some older couples, they say your wife is going to be your top priority, then your kids. So I'm gonna have to work on that because right now it's my kids and then my wife. But I really do feel like the Creator put me on the planet to be a father, and as a result of that, I get a chance to share so much of who I am. But it also forced me. You guys don't have kids yet, do you? It forced me to see the world in a very different light. I didn't even think about making money ever before I had kids, and I realized that my kids can't eat my theories. Right? I grew up in the anti-capitalist space, right, where capitalism is not in order for there to be an upper class, there's got to be an underclass, and I never was comfortable with that. And then I had kids, and I realized that if you lack capital in a capitalist society, it impacts your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Right? It's very difficult to be whole if you don't have capital in a capitalist society. And so it forced me into that, but we also touched on God a little bit. And I come from a space where I'm not traditionally religious. I had a break from traditional religion when I was 16. And I had maneuvered through this space where I was mad. I wouldn't say I was mad at God, but I was certainly mad at organized religion. And then when I had my kids, I had my first son, it made me think, well, what do I want my children to understand about God and the Creator? And it really forced me to do some real self-work. And so we talked about meditating, right? And the journey of meditation, meditating is how I met God. Like legitimately, meditating is how I met God, and it's consistently how I commune with the Creator.
You see the God in yourself.
Exactly.
It allows you to know that everything's part of you. Everything is God. You know, the air
I would use that same language. It's crazy that you say that.
The trees, you know, the reflection of Mr. Jamaican Street Sport. Like we all are a reflection of each other, you know, and God brings different aspects of your life to help you on your journey, to help you find your vision, to help you find your purpose.
That's crazy. That's exactly what I found on the end of the journey, man.
You keep seeing your God and yourself in every aspect of life. You can't lose. Like nothing's good or intentionally bad, but everything has a an opposite or a reaction to it. So if you're going with pure intentions, you're going in with a harmonious state. You know, you're able to see God in everything. That's kind of how I feel.
It's almost the exact thing that I mean, almost in those exact words, man. Like legitimately, because I was mad at like, how can you say you gotta? I was born Baptist. How can you say you gotta be baptized in order to get to God when I just lived in Senegal? Where it's 98% Muslim. You mean to tell me that all of these people? And then I realized it hit me through that process. It's like you can't get mad at the Baptist. You can't get mad at the Muslim. God talks to you in whatever way you need to get spoken to. It automatically.
I had that same experience. Like you said, I grew up Baptist. So I was going through that same thing. I had an aunt who was Buddhist, but when she passed away, you know, my whole concept, well, I guess she's going to hell. You know, she's not Baptist. You know, she doesn't fall under those rules that I was taught. But as you expand, you know, we all have our own ideologies and we all have our own religions, and it's all one big tree, you know, that sprouts out that allows you to find, you know, that sunlight, which is God coming down to you. So. It all leads to the same source.
I'll end by saying this, and I gotta end. Y'all feel free to continue, but I'll end by saying this: the Creator is gracious, right? And I realized that throughout this whole 24-hour period, God has been present, like clearly. Like how? First of all, I met your brother earlier. Never thought I'd see him again. Saw him. Seriously, we need to get him on camera as well. And we were talking about you, and then I saw him again. We were talking, and you were playing volleyball. I was like, well, I'll see him. Make sure we talk. And I came over here and it was literally, I was looking at the clock, like, I gotta get out of here. Started talking to you guys, saw you guys here, and then randomly saw my good brother Jamaican Street Sports here. And the reality is for me, again, I'll journal about this later, but the Creator is gracious and everything happens on purpose. And so I'm grateful for you. I'm about to get you on YouTube, I'll make sure I can find this and put it up on my stuff as well. And stay in contact with you guys because, you know, who knows what can come from this, right? You guys already sparked me to make sure that when I go back home, I'm not thinking 10 years, I'm thinking today, how do I organize with my family and my people to get some land now instead of tomorrow? And who knows what else can come from it. So I'm grateful for you guys, I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful to the Creator for bringing us all together.
Peace, respect, blessings, all that good stuff.
Charlie! Representing for Jamaica Street Sports. You're the chap boss, you know, I'm representing for Jamaica Street Sports, you know, the real sports, you know. Check them out on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere, you know. Subscribe, like, and share. That is it. Chap boss represent. God on time.
Up and running in advance, I represent for Jamaica Street Sports. I mean, I say, I don't know if I no money tell you not call away. We don't want nobody, because nobody never want away. We make the money, everybody want to swan away. Street Sports, them run Trelawney, man.